Megavanen, I'm Kenneth, this is League of Cloaks, and it's time to talk about Iron Man 3.
You're watching the League of Cloaks, Oaks.
So I, like pretty much every other human being with access to a theater and a decent imagination, love Marvel movies. And out of all of their individual movie series devoted to each of their superheroes so far, I think you'd have to say that Iron Man is the strongest one. Now don't get me wrong, I love Thor and Captain America, but their respective first movies just weren't up to par with Iron Man. They were enjoyable for the most part, but they were also just smothered in cliches and plot holes and just generally bad writing. Furthermore, Captain America just didn't seem badass enough to me, and Thor's movie, while slightly better, just was... I mean, seriously, enough with the rainbow colors. It looked like an animated Disney film. Honestly, I liked both of those characters more within the first 30 seconds that I saw them in Avengers than I did in their entire respective movies. And maybe I'm slightly prejudiced here because I adore Joss Whedon, and I have done so since I was a kid and randomly caught an episode of Buffy on TV while my parents weren't looking. But he was exactly what the Marvel movie franchise needed. He's just so freaking good at making every character stand out and be distinct, and there's not a dull moment in his scripting. And that's the thing, Iron Man 1 had already done a fantastic job of that, and on so many other levels. The scripting was tight and clever in such a way as to add a lot to Tony Stark's character, but they also developed him over the course of the movie. He grew up. You could argue the same thing about Thor and Captain America, I just think it was a bit sloppier, but the simple fact is that Iron Man was just a much stronger film than its counterparts in terms of the story, character development, theme, just really everything that matters in a movie. I felt like Iron Man 2 was also really good, although it focused a bit more on the action than on Tony's personal development. But honestly, I couldn't really resent them for that because I had no clue where they could go from there in terms of character development. Although having now seen Iron Man 3, I think they managed to bring his personal development back up somewhere in between the levels of the first and second films. A fair warning, the rest of this review is just going to be packed with spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, go see it now. Pause this video, go see the movie, come back and resume, and let's talk spoilers. All you need to know for now is that it was awesome and it was worth your $10. You know, I think the trailers actually gave us a really bad impression of what the movie was going to be. I mean, they were great trailers, but they were really dark and gritty, and the impression I got from them was that this film was going to be the Iron Man equivalent of The Dark Knight Rises. It looked like Iron Man was just going to be destroyed, much in the same way that Bane broke Batman's back over his knee. And Iron Man was brought really low in this movie, but not in nearly as dark and hard to watch of a way. I actually thought the tone of this movie was pretty consistent with the first film, which I liked. I feel like a good Iron Man movie has to be this perfect combination of serious character moments and comical character moments, and Tony just has this way of bringing the comedy into the serious character moments, which is part of what makes him so awesome. So on the whole, I thought it was a really good film that in terms of story and character was somewhere in between the first two, and in terms of action just blew them both completely out of the water. Now, there were a couple of small things that bugged me in the movie, so let's hit on those. The biggest one, I think, would have to be the pacing. Not the big picture sort of structural pacing, mind you. I felt like that was fine. The story progressed about how it needed to. I'm talking about the shot-to-shot pacing. I felt like things in a few cases were just cut together too fast. And they do that in editing because they're trying to add to the intensity, but the trick is to know when to slow down and exactly how much to slow down. The main scene I noticed this in was in the big climactic fight scene at the end when Pepper fell supposedly to her death. That was a big emotional moment that just went by way too fast for my emotions to really catch on like they needed to. Did your emotions catch on like they needed to? Finger eater. What are you talking about? I thought the pacing was perfect. Eh? Not the fall itself, mind you. I like that she didn't fall in slow motion because it made it more like one of those really big real-life scenarios where something huge happens and you just have to kind of stand there for a second like, wait, what? And that was the moment I think they cut short, Tony's reaction, because I felt like he needed a second longer to kind of process it and let us realize how he was processing it. How do I respond to this? Oh right, by beating the fuck out of the Mandarin. It was almost like they thought if they made it happen really fast, we as the audience wouldn't have time to remember, oh yeah, she's one of those fiery super people now. She's totally fine. Ow! Dude! Can you stop? Jeez. Another moment that struck me that way was when Tony was tied up and the Mandarin was showing him the live feed of Pepper undergoing the procedure. Click. And this is what's happening to your girlfriend right now. Click. Anyways, now it's entirely possible that the pacing will seem much better to me on my second viewing, but this is just my first impression. I was also a little put off by how fragile they made the suits, the Iron Man suits, seem in this movie by comparison. I mean, they made it clear from the get-go that these fiery people, whatever you call them, could get past the suit's armor and, you know, disable its electronics with relative ease, but since when does getting hit by an 18-wheeler smash it to bits? Especially there at the end, it just felt like they were crumbling apart way too easily. Although it was obviously justifiable with Mark 42, and that actually made for a really comical moment. But that's just a little picky thing. A slightly less picky thing was the origin story they gave us for the Mandarin. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't particularly strong either. For one thing, the whole scenario came straight out of The Incredibles. I'm your biggest fan, I want to work with you. Yeah, whatever, kid, piss off. I will have my revenge. That was exactly the story of Mr. Incredible and Syndrome. I think that actually worked better in The Incredibles because they had already established Syndrome as this whiny, wuss, immature sort of character that became a villain because no one ever taught him to get over it. The Mandarin, however, just seemed like he should be more complex than that. He didn't seem like the kind of villain who would still have his Buzz Lightyear tighty-whities in a wad because a celebrity didn't give him the time of day 10 years ago. And I kind of just wanted someone to tell him what Tony told that little kid about his dad leaving. Yeah, that's life. Dads leave. No need to be a pussy about it. Can I just say how tired I get of immature villains? It's like filmmakers think that villains only happen when someone fails to grow up. And that's something that actually really bothered me about Loki in the Thor movie, even though I liked him actually a good bit more in the Avengers. Honestly, I prefer villains like Bane or even like Dr. Horrible, people who are just sick of all the bullshit. Yeah, can I get the supervillain souffle with a side of maturity and intelligence? And hold the butt hurt. So I wasn't a big fan of that backstory, but I did very much enjoy the Mandarin as a whole, especially with that plot twist halfway through. And Guy Pearce is just a fantastic actor. Also want to mention that I really like the character of Rhodes in these films, and I feel like the new guy that's playing him is just a better match on the whole. I mean, the first guy did a great job, but I feel like this guy just has more of the charisma that the character needs. Like the scene where they pried him out of the Iron Patriot suit and he was like, do not open, do not open. All right, let's do this. That was badass, and I don't think I would have believed that as much with the other guy. I also liked how much screen time they gave Jon Favreau's character in the beginning. He's fun, and I like that he's still that involved with the third movie even though he's not directing it. Because he definitely did a fantastic job just getting this series off to an excellent start. So yeah, I think that's everything I have to say for now. It's always a little frustrating with movie reviews because you want to put them out like right when the movie comes out, but it's hard to process everything that fast. So inevitably my opinion will evolve over time, but for now all I can do is give you my first impression. So you guys tell me what you thought in the comments. So yeah, feel free to hit me up on Facebook and Twitter and check out my band's EP on Bandcamp, all that good stuff. Links in the description. And I hope to see you guys next week. Victory.